Michael Cain, and you're here with River Talk. Joining me on the panel today is
Heather Hansen,
Savanah Hummel,
Kylie Green.
And we'll be discussing the political implications of Supreme Court Justice Scalia passing and the effects it'll have on the current political climate. I'm going to start off right at the bat with a question to each one of the panelists about, is it the president's right to make this nomination?
I think that he needs to. I understand where the Republicans are coming from, their standpoint, but I also understand that there is so many pressing issues in the world today that need to be taken care of, and they need to have a Supreme Court justice on board. They need to have someone heading the system, so I think that's something that's important.
I agree, because in Article 2, Section 2, it clearly states President must elect with the help of the Senate, right? Is it Senate? Yes. Okay. That he must pick one, but although it doesn't say a time limit, I believe it's still Obama's responsibility because it did happen in the time Obama was.
Yeah. I feel that it is an obligation for President Obama to be nominating a Supreme Court justice where it is appropriate if he or she has the qualifications. I also feel at the same time that a lame duck president who is in his last year of office shouldn't be making such a huge decision because it's going to change the direction of the country.
You made a very good point there. If the current president did make a nomination of a valid candidate, do you feel that the Republican-controlled Congress still has the right to stonewall for political reasons?
From a personal perspective, I feel that stubbornness is not appropriate in this situation.
I agree.
Supreme Court Justice is a lifetime position, and if we're going to be simply denying a nomination of somebody, male or female, who is qualified, I think that's inappropriate.
Okay. How do you think this affects the current political climate? Like, what effect will this have on the election?
I feel like it's going to have, it already does have a huge part in the election right now. It's totally involving all parts of the government. All three branches will be now involved because of this issue, and I think that it's going to take a huge turn for the direction that it was already heading, and I think it's going to take a big step back because of this new issue.
Okay, so if this was not an election year, do you think the issue would be handled with the same intensity?
No.
I agree. I don't think it would
Not
either.
at all. This is setting it's almost setting the scene for the election. This is a great topic for people to get worked up about, and I think the candidates are using it to their advantage to be with or against Obama on the issue.
Should it looks like the nomination will happen during President Obama's presidency, but if the confirmation does hold over to the next administration, what effect do you think it would have if, say, Hillary or Bernie won, and vice versa, say, if Trump or Cruz won? I'm leaving it open for any possible candidate, just more of a Democratic or Republican win. What effects do you think it would have for each side?
Although I would probably dislike who Obama picks because of his values and how they're different from mine, I believe that Hillary or Bernie would probably pick someone even more intense with their values and something similar to probably Sotomayor or that judge. Anyway, I don't want that. I would prefer Obama because I feel like if he picks someone, it wouldn't be as left.
Well, he would definitely have less to gain, seeing how he'll be stepping out of the political
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this
scene.
if you think about it, this isn't going to benefit him really in any way. He'll be out of office in 11 months. So.
But that being said, there's a chances are his nomination is going to toe the party line more so than his own personal opinion.
I think it is his duty as President of the United States to take charge and nominate someone for this position. I think that no matter if he was going to be in for another term, even though I know he can't, or if he was going to be out next month, I think it's very important for him to step up and make the decision and do what he thinks is right at the time for the United States.
Do any of you have a comment on who you think should get the nomination?
I don't have a strong opinion on that right now. I know that all 46 Democratic senators are saying, no, we need to have Obama nominate somebody in immediately. 35, anywhere, depending on what source you go to, anywhere between 30 and 35 Republican senators are saying, heck no, we need to wait until the next president gets into office. But if you think about it, we don't know for sure if it's a Republican or a Democrat coming into office next election. I mean, they're really taking a gamble. The Republicans, they're gambling.
Sure, I totally agree with you. They're trading off what is appeared to be a bad situation for what could possibly be a worse one, not necessarily for the country, but for their party.
Yeah, I really think you have to weigh your options, and in my opinion, if we do get a Democrat in office, I think Obama's nomination versus Hillary Clinton's nomination would be catastrophically different.
Completely.
Do you feel that this is a telltale to how they feel the current election is going? Just how they've decided to make such a serious stand on this issue? Do you think that it either shows strength in the Republicans' ability to take back the presidency, or do you think that it perhaps, since they're making such a big deal out of this, that it maybe shows that they're a little bit more afraid of a Democratic win?
I believe that they're very afraid that the Democrats might get office in 2016 because with all the youth being uneducated and wanting, this is another thing, but uneducated, wanting free stuff, I feel like more people are have liberal views, especially college students, and although I don't know if they'll vote or not, but
that's a big key. Most of that demographic is definitely leaning left, but getting them to actually participate is much harder than what you would think.
So I think they have something to be, the Republicans have something to be worried about, but who knows?
Okay, so should the Republicans follow through with their plan to basically stonewall the confirmation of any nomination that President Obama makes, how do you think the average American will feel above the threat of more gridlock in Congress?
Frustrated. I feel like that wouldn't get anything accomplished, and we'll always be in the stalemate that we are currently.
I feel that the American people should have a say in this nomination, but at the same time, I feel like I understand where the Republicans are coming from. The American people need a say, want to say, but I also feel like it's the president's job to do what's right after that, to get a little involvement, but to know that he has to take charge.
This is just speculation, but saying that he does make the nomination and then the Republican-controlled Congress decides to delay the confirmation for political reasons, with so many of the congressional seats up for re-election in the next season, how do you think this will affect their individual campaigns?
It could be harmful. I think there's definitely an administrative lag here. That's actually an economic term, but you can apply it to politics.
And they're so close, they're one and the same, is my opinion.
Right, and I think there's a fine line. When we live in a nation where there's so much distrust for the government, I think we need to put trust in the people. But unfortunately, one of the only ways to put trust in the people is to allow them to vote for the next candidate to be elected, and therefore putting off the nomination of a Supreme Court justice. Like I said, it's a really fine line.
No, and I totally see your point.
Because we don't trust the government, and you did mention earlier that if we're in a gridlock, what is that going to say to the people? How are we supposed to trust the government more? And if we don't trust the government should put trust in us to make the right decision for what's best for us, because after all, we will face the consequences for what we vote on.
Sure.
Ideally. But like I said, it's tough. You want to put the trust in the people and let them vote, but that would pretty much require putting off the nomination.
Which it would then emphasize the problem that I highlighted earlier with it would show that the Republican Congress was unwilling to compromise or make deals. And so where your suggestion is very right, that people should have more of an influence on it, what kind of signal does that send to the people that these individuals that they have already elected that are supposed to be doing their jobs for political reasons one way or another have chosen not to?
Yeah, I think both parties, rightfully so, stand up for their agendas and their values, but it has seemed to gotten a lot more extreme.
With the use of social media, more people think they know everything, post their opinions.
Without research.
Yes, and there's a lot of false things on the internet, and people get heated up over that as well, so it just kind of...
Yep, okay, so is it possible that this could lead to some trouble for the senatorial elections that will be coming up here soon?
It could. People might get, I don't have a lot of opinion on this, but others may be upset with the Republicans that they have so much say on this right now, and they're blatantly telling Obama, well, we're not gonna approve anybody you nominate, and people who may have previously voted for these Republicans say, this is not what I voted for you not to make decisions, because this is a very big decision for our country. I mean, this is a lifetime appointment. I don't know if I agree with lifetime appointments for a Supreme Court justice. I think that's a little almost outdated. There's no other lifetime appointment. But
No, I totally agree with your standpoint. If anything, we need more term limits, not less.
Yeah.
And we need to structure them so they're not so affected by their reelection. Now, what do you think the media coverage of this issue has done to it? Do you think that the media is presenting this in an appropriate manner, or?
I'm sorry, it is.
Okay, in your guys' opinion, what effect is the media having on this issue?
I think the media is having a huge effect on this issue, especially the presidential candidates are taking to Twitter. Ted Cruz actually tweeted about Scalia, and he said he's an American hero. He said, we owe it to him and the nation for the Senate to ensure that the next president names his replacement. So you can just give a, oh, and then also, Rubio tweeted and said, the next president must nominate a justice who will continue Justice Scalia's, I don't know how to say his name, unwavering belief in the founding principles that we hold dear. So you can see that they are definitely taking to Twitter, knowing that a lot of young people are on Twitter and other social media sites that will read these, and it'll take effect on them. And also I know Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders have been doing the same thing, so you can kind of see both sides are taking to it.
Do you think this is having a positive or a negative effect? Because from those tweets, it sounds like they would favor gridlock in Congress, which may be its own detrimental issue.
I think that, I think it takes a negative and a positive effect. It depends on which side you're standing on. I think that if you are for gridlocking and you're for waiting for the next presidential election to nominate the next justice, then I think this is a positive thing. This is what you're going for. I think if you're on the other side, it's obviously not what you wanted to hear. So
okay,
it
so you
depends
feel
on
that
how you look at
the
it.
media is a double-edged sword kind of on this
Definitely,
issue.
for sure.
think
Yes,
it's very manipulative.
yes. Everyone can put their opinion out there. It's there's no.
I totally agree with all your guys' analysis on that. It's interesting how they're using it as a tool in the election. Both sides have basically taken up arms, basically with the same issue. Be whatever the true politics behind it or the letter of the law, they've definitely decided to escalate this issue to overshadow some of the other things that are going on in the campaigns.
Definitely.
You had mentioned before the quotes from Cruz and Rubio talked about how Justice Scalia was a very conservative and religious. How does his absence upset the balance of political power in the Supreme Court, you found? And could they really find a valid replacement that would really follow in his footsteps? Or should we be expecting something different maybe?
the problem with Obama nominating a new Supreme Court justice is that I don't see him as a Christian figure. I've researched different views from him, and I've seen him say things of the Christian faith. He kind of seems like he practices the Christian faith, but he also seems that he favors Islam. And it's just very strange to me, but people say that a Supreme Court justice should be a combination of Justinian, Jesus Christ, and John Marshall. And if Obama nominates a Supreme Court justice, there will be no Jesus Christ. And I remember a few years ago when he said that we are no longer a Christian nation, a quote directly from Barack Obama. And that's scary to me, an avid Christian.
Well, in Barack Obama's defense, I think that he was saying that we are no longer just strictly a Christian nation, that there are many religions that have a large enough group here in the United States that just a single political candidate as a Christian doesn't necessarily represent us all as a country, which a president should.
Understandable.
Now, and if should Bernie win the nomination and he be elected, he's actually of the Jewish faith, and so, like, what effect do you think that would have on his nomination for the Supreme Court?
I don't think Bernie Sanders really
I've never heard him say anything about his Jewish
Yeah,
faith. I
he-
know
I-
it just because of like the background history, but
Sure.
he doesn't seem very religious at all.
No, he sticks to social, political, and economic
His,
issues for
yes,
the most part.
his predominant agenda does not include religion, as opposed to Ted Cruz, who says religious liberty, that's right on the forefront.
Yeah, so definitely Cruz and Carson seem to have, it's dominant in all of the political candidates. I can't say that one of them is more so than the other, but they definitely make a point in their platform to include it. Where on the other side of the coin, you get a lot more things like gender, wealth equality, and things like that. Do you think, which of those qualities would be best represented in our next Supreme Court judge? Like, should we have someone that has a stronger tie to all of the people, or do you think that we need some more, more of the presence of religion in our government?
I feel that a Supreme Court justice should relate as much as possible to the people. They should have a strong tie to the people, but living in a country that was founded on Christianity, I think it's a scary idea to see Christianity slowly withering away.
I think that's why Justice Scalia had such a strong, he had such a strong connection with the president. He had a strong connection with the people, with the Congress, everybody. I think that's why he did such a good job, because he was so tied to the people and his religion and things like that, that keeps him more human, like, someone that we can relate to.
How do you feel that age factors into this? You're all very, very sharp, politically minded young people. Would you relate better to a Supreme Court judge that was perhaps had a little bit closer understanding of what it means to be a youth here in America? Or do you think that we should look for the more seasoned, experienced politician, but maybe doesn't have his thumb on the heartbeat of the culture?
Sure. I think that you often hear that you get wiser with age, and they have age restrictions, per se, on different positions for a reason.
Mhm.
I don't think,
Especially for a lifetime position.
a lifetime position, I mean, that
That's-
just guarantees you even longer. And of course, you would improve in your position with time, considering it is a lifetime position, but I don't think I need somebody who is younger to relate to them. I can relate to anybody of all ages,
Mhm.
and I can consider all ends of the spectrum.
Mhm.
And I don't think it depends on age, I think it depends on maturity and wisdom.
Mhm.
Sure, I will second that. It's more of the quality of the person, not so much the. We've heard a lot of great points here today. Do any of you have anything that you would like to add before we wrap this up?
Although I believe Obama should choose the next judicial branch member, I think it is quite imperative that he attends Scalia's funeral. And I feel like,
Show respect.
yes, especially if he thinks he will get the opportunity to do it.
That sounds
I
good.
agree.
Sorry,
I think making such a big decision should require a show of respect.
Mhm.
Yes, I
Especially
think
if-
that's the least he could do
Mhm.
at this point right now.
Well, I think we can all agree on that. Thank you so much for being part of the panel today on River Talk.